Some computing revolution is coming fast, but is it a breakthrough or a buzzword? This is Sectors Up Close, and we're talking about quantum computing. 40 years ago, engineers began imagining a new kind of computer, powered by the strange rules of quantum mechanics, one that could surpass anything we have today. And after decades of false starts, that breakthrough may finally be within reach. Promising huge advances in everything from drug discovery to AI, quantum computing could reshape entire industries. But how close are we really to it changing the world? Well, let's ask Peter Anderson, founder of Anderson Capital Management. Well, Peter, Google claims its quantum processor solved in minutes a problem that would take computers the age of the universe. But how should we interpret that? Is that a real breakthrough or overstated benchmark? What's the real use here?
Yes, I mean, that statement is very exciting, and I do think it's a little bit of an exaggeration. I mean, we're not there yet. And I think what's most important for viewers to realize is quantum computers will not replace what we call now classical computers or the standard computers we use, because the quantum computers are designed for very specific problems. So yes, we are on the, I would say almost on the brink of getting there, but we're still not there yet. And there's a lot of competing sciences and technologies that are racing to the finish line. So it's a very exciting field to watch and sometimes participate in, actually.
Well, I guess the real question is how far are we realistically from commercially useful quantum machines?
The easiest way to look at this is to ask, what is the computing horsepower of quantum computers? And that is another big race. So we are almost there in terms of the typical metrics they use, and I'm not going to confuse people by giving those metrics because they're very technical, but when you do look at those, you say we are almost on the brink, and some have demonstrated some preliminary but clunky results. And I do believe the science is there, the technology has to catch up. And in many ways, I think investors and people are looking at this and overestimating the next 3 years, but underestimating the next, say, 10 or 20 years as to the progress.
Well, as you said, quantum computers are not expected to replace classical computers, but given their fragility and cost, will businesses ever see a strong enough return to justify adoption?
We see many questions that are very simple to ask are very complicated to answer. But many companies think of airlines, for instance, trying to save on fuel costs. What is the optimal routes? What is the optimal ascent of that plane and the descent? And even a tiny fraction of saving gasoline, for instance, consumption on air fuel will result in millions of dollars of saving. So that's one example, and there are many other optimization problems, especially in a field called metallurgy, where you're trying to design new types of metals, polymers. So we will see it mainly in a scientific field, but also in any field that has optimization and wishes that they could save on expenses, for instance.
Well, let's talk names now. Investors are already looking for the next AI moment in quantum computing. So which parts of the ecosystem are actually investable today? Where's the real opportunity?
There's a number of approaches to getting to the finish line. And technically, they're called things like trapped ions, neutral atoms, superconducting. These are all different ways of maintaining this quantum supremacy that they talk about. Most of them, and this is very important, most of them require an astonishing low temperature, near absolute zero, which is hundreds of degrees lower than zero on the Fahrenheit scale. So just think of that. Maintaining those ultra low temperatures, those are colder than outer space, put a tremendous technological strain on building this. There are some that require just room temperature computing, such as neutral atoms. So while I hesitate to give explicit names, I would encourage people to look at those different technologies. And I would, in our opinion, we recommend the room temperature computing approach because it's just simpler technologically. And there are other aspects to it that lead to very favorable rankings, such as when you start to build these larger systems, which ones are more capable of adapting to larger system type structures, and the neutral atom ones seem to be very much in line with that approach.
Well, some quantum stocks have surged despite little or no revenue, prompting concerns of a bubble. Do you share those concerns, or is this the early stage pricing of a transformational tech?
A little bit of both, actually. Of course, you know, the specter of a bubble is always sitting on our shoulder, whispering in our ear, is this the time that markets are overestimating? And, you know, of course, we worry more about that with artificial intelligence, I think, because it is so far in the spotlight, and everybody now knows about companies such as NVIDIA. The quantum computing is a little bit more obscure. And I think it's because of its age. It hasn't been around as long as, say, AI in the public eye. So I do think that while they may be over-promising right now, many of these technologies, they will, especially, as I said, the neutral atom technology will, I think, achieve what scientists and technologists would like to see.
That was Peter Anderson from Anderson Capital Management. Don't forget you can watch more videos on Reuters.com.